thanks to F. Appreciate the opportunity to participate in my sobriety. And those were just beautiful words. So thank you. Um, I've never felt so much love before, like I just did right now. um, to kind of start things off. I had a pretty rough childhood. I had a father who was also an alcoholic, and sorry, I still got emotional. And I'm not even 5 minutes into this. Um, to kind of like go back, I had one traumatic experience that stuck out for me. I was about 4 years old, and my dad, in his one of his drunken moments, kicked me and my mother out and threw us out onto the street. I was 4 years old, and I've kind of carried that resentment for a long time. And he, grabbed the garbage bag, put our stuff in there, and put us out. And that's all I could remember from that moment. And we came back because my mom's still with my dad now. So I had an abusive childhood, mentally, not so much physically. I don't remember my dad putting his hands on me often. The occasional, we come from a Spanish culture, so occasional whoop in the butt, or a slap, but nothing very handsy. And he was just always very mentally abusive, like just stupid. You're not good for anything. Just the shit that could really fuck you up. And I'm sorry if I'm cursing too much. um, so I used to get picked on in elementary school. My dad put me in a private school, so I went to a private school my entire kindergarten through 8th grade. Tried to give me the best education I could. And after that, I expected to go to a private high school, which he can no longer afford. And he did not put me there. So I went from this small, intimate classroom to a very big, over, I want to say 4,000 kids in the school, maybe. So I went from knowing 30 kids my entire, you know, from kindergarten through 8th grade. Now I go to having to be introduced to these bigger classrooms, not knowing anyone, basically going to a brand new school with no friends, no real support. And so what do? You try to fit in. So I tried to fit in. I got connected with a bunch of cool kids, and started cutting class, started hanging out in the park. I started off with a 40 ounce of old English and smoking some weed. um and that's what my high school years consisted of. Okay, so I'd be happy to start going to school now, because I was going to go to the park. I was not going to go to class. I'd spend most of my time in the cafeteria, trying to fit in with everyone, all the cool kids. And, oh, let's go smoke some weed. Sure, why not? I'll get the 40s. And we would go to the park and just smoke and drink until it was time to go home, try to sober up, go home. And, I wouldn't really have anywhere to go. But as I got older, I stopped coming home. I would spend more time out on the street. I would drive my mom crazy. At that point, I started really just driving my mom crazy. And she was hurt. She was hurt by my actions. And that's just when everything just started to, when I go back now and just noticing all my behaviors. And I would not come home, and, well, I wouldn't answer the phone. I started coming home later. I would come home at 8, 9 o'clock at night before my dad would get home. Um, and I was high and drunk. And my mom would give me the benefit of the doubt. It's her son. She's in denial. And as I started getting older, I eventually told my mom, I'm not going to go to school. Just sign me out. I was 16 years old. One of the deans had told my mom, just throw him in jail, scare him a little bit. And my mom didn't want to hear that. Like, how are you going to tell my mom to throw me in jail for cutting school? Like, that was just not going to be that wasn't an option for her. And I just told her, I said, you know, you guys shouldn't waste your money. Don't attempt to put me in a private high school now. It's too late. I don't want to go to school. And my mom eventually signed me out of school. She signed me out of school at 16. I took my GED. I got my GED diploma. And, you know, I was like, let me get an early start on college. Uh, no, it didn't work out either. I'm not the school type of person. And now I'm 16, 17. I get a job and it pays well. You know, I'm 17 years old. At the time, I don't know, I was making decent money for a 17-year-old living at home. I didn't have to spend any money on rent or anything at that time. And I just started coming home even later and just really focusing on just getting drunk, hanging out. Um, and I got in trouble. I was 17 years old. It's the first time I got arrested. 16, I'm sorry, 16 years old when I got arrested for a little pot. Um, you know, I got in trouble. My dad went and picked me up after I spent my 24 hours in central bookings. And, you know, I was like, I won't do it again, blah, blah, blah. I did it again. I smoked every day for God knows how many years. And I can't remember exact details, but I was arrested like maybe a handful of times, 5 times, twice for weed. And then I had a couple of DUIs, you know, all years apart. And, you know, my life was just basically out of control. I didn't know that it was out of control. At that point, I didn't know I was an alcoholic and I wouldn't consider myself an addict. But it just progressively got worse. I blacked out one time. I got alcohol poisoning when I was 18 years old. I was hanging out for Halloween and I downed the gallon of Bacardi in probably an hour and a half. And I don't remember a thing. I remember waking up in the hospital feeling like a train had run me over. Um, I got the details from my parents and they said that I had, you know, skipped a beat, that they had lost me for like about a second. So I was like near death that one time. And I stopped drinking maybe for like 2 weeks. You know, the fear of drinking scared me a bit. But after that, 2 weeks were up. I was out hanging out, going to the clubs with my friends, drinking, um, not moderately, because you would have thought I would have at least tried to attempt to drink less. No, I was drinking just as much, if not more. And you know, it was a weekend thing, and whenever I would go out, but I found myself going out maybe 3, 4 times a week. And then I'm sorry if I'm jumping back and forth a little bit, just trying to gather my thoughts. Um, then I had met my ex-girlfriend, um, and we would drink together, but I wasn't really drinking in excess. Like I wasn't drinking a lot, and but I was drinking very frequently. And fast forward a little bit, I got my first DUI while we were together. I was out with a friend, a female friend, and I didn't get pulled over, but I was very intoxicated. And it was either I make a U turn or I drive up to the checkpoint. So I was like, I think I got this. I drive up to the checkpoint, and the cops like pull over, get out, and now I'm, you know, I'm about 21 maybe, and you know, young kid, nice car, a little bit of money in his pocket. I was working at the company that I'm still at now. And, you know, he insinuated that I was doing other things, selling drugs, which I wasn't. But you know, it was just that was my life. You know, I was drunk and I didn't hurt anybody, thank God. Um, but at that point I lost my girlfriend because now I was caught being with another female while I got arrested. So I broke up with my girlfriend, and uh, you would think I would stop drinking after that. I didn't. I attended those classes. I got my license back, and I stopped drinking and driving, but I didn't stop drinking. So I would, I took it serious that I was like, I can't do this again, and I didn't. So just kind of like fast forwarding, I was smoking weed and drinking very frequently. It turned into just weekends to every day, and then I met my current wife. Um, right before I met my wife, 2 weeks prior to that, I was I got jumped in a nightclub for apparently I had no idea, but reasons being I was intoxicated and someone was pissed off at me because I was hanging out with his sister. And him and his friends ended up being at the same nightclub 2 weeks after, and I ended up getting beaten up by five guys. So I was like, okay, where are my friends? No, but nobody was around. Nobody got. So I was on my own pretty much. And going back and thinking on that, I was just like, well, that was my addiction. That was me being drunk. And I just I and then fast forward, I met my wife. Um, and from there we were together for about it wasn't steady per se, like, we hadn't made it exclusive, and but I was just focused on her. So I was working and just focused on her. And my drinking, I want to say, maybe died down a bit. Like it wasn't as frequent. Then we were together about a year and a half. She got pregnant. And then we moved in together and I started drinking more. And it was just like a back and forth with the drinking. Like I wouldn't drink it every day. I would drink on the weekends, but it would drink in excess. I would act like a fool. And it got to the point where I was making my wife uncomfortable, making my wife miserable. And she probably felt safe with me the first 2 years of our relationship. And after that, it was just complete torture for her, complete torture. And just, I didn't appreciate her. I didn't, but in my head, I was this great guy. I was this great guy who was doing good things. And how can't you trust me? How can't you love me? Or, what is it I'm doing? And I was doing obviously everything every drunk would do. And I was just betraying her trust with family, with friends, not having any boundaries, embarrassing her any opportunity I could. I would objectify women every opportunity I got. And I didn't know this. I didn't realize this until I got into this program when we really started going into the step work and I was doing my step forward with all these things popped up. And I realized what I was doing. Uh, so, you know, I was every woman's nightmare. I was not physically cheating on my wife, but, texting other women, paying other women for pictures and, just not being faithful to my wife. I wasn't giving her the attention that she desired. I was giving every other woman the attention that she wanted. And that's just typical alcoholic behavior. I was not worried about anyone other than satisfying myself. At that point, it was just all about me. How am I going to be happy? What am I going to do to please myself? And it didn't matter if I was hurting her and destroying my family in the process. It was just all about me. And it was really, really rough. Like I destroyed family vacations with friends, family vacations on our own. I would just be a drunken mess. There was one vacation where we were with friends, and security. my wife and my best friend and his wife were on the balcony getting ready. They had come out because they had gone upstairs to get ready for dinner. But I stayed by the pool drinking by myself. And so I was when I finally decided to go up to the room, uh security was escorting me. Security escorted me. They're like, "Do you guys know him?" They're like, he doesn't know where he is. And I was just totally drunk, like just embarrassingly drunk. I was making a fool of myself, and I had embarrassed my wife completely that night. Um, so there's been a lot of moments where I didn't know that my alcoholic behavior was destroying my family. It was completely and just destroying them because I want to say my two oldest were already around for that. And they saw me this way. So they saw me being drunk. They saw me acting like a fool. And to me, I didn't see the pain that I was causing them by them seeing me this way. I had no idea. And all those things caused them trauma. But just because I wasn't doing it like my dad did it to me, didn't mean I wasn't hurting them. And the beauty of being in the program, I get to realize all the destruction and all the torture and all the anguish and pain that I caused everybody. And for that vacation, actually, I had I was wearing an alcohol monitor. Well, I was supposed to be wearing an alcohol monitor because I had just gotten arrested for my second DUI right before that vacation. And I had like about a couple of days left before I took it off, but I was going to be on vacation. So they said they would take it off. They took it off for me to go on that vacation. Little did I know that these monitors could monitor your alcohol levels for 4 days. I'm like, I'll drink up until the very last day I'm there. I got the weekend and I go home. They're not gonna know. Was I wrong? Um, but right before that, the reason I got arrested was because I was hanging out with my best friend, and he was gonna have a baby shower for his wife. So I'm at this baby shower, and I'm fighting with my wife during the baby shower because my sister-in-law went into the hospital to give birth. So at that time, I'm fighting with my wife. My wife is calling me, "Where are you? Why are you not here? Why are you not coming?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm having a good time. What do you need me there for?" But the plan was that as soon as she went into labor, my wife was going there, and I was going to meet my wife at the hospital because that's her sister, and that's family. And I didn't do that. I ended up falling asleep in the car. This time I wasn't driving though. I wasn't driving the car. I got arrested. They're like, you were gonna drive. I was like, no, I wasn't. Doesn't matter. I was drunk. It didn't matter. I was drunk. I was in the car. So, they gave me alcohol monitor. I had to do all these classes. I had to get therapists and pay for all these things that I just there was no need. If I would have just went to the hospital with my wife, I would have not gone through that situation. I also missed an employment opportunity because of that. So not only did I hurt my family again, now I'm starting to ruin my own life with employment opportunities that would have definitely put me in a better place. So I ended up getting the alcohol monitor and I got it off for that vacation. I was drinking like a blithering idiot for that whole vacation. And when I come back, they put the monitor on, and the woman goes, "Stay here. You can't leave." They're like, "Oh, it picked up traces of alcohol." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "You just violated your court order." I said, "What?" They're like, "You need to go give a urine sample and, you know, all these other things." And I was just like, that can't happen. I got on the phone with my attorney and I started pleading with these people to not throw me in jail because I was going to go to jail for like 6 months. They wanted to put me in jail for 6 months. And I was just like, I'm not having it. I'm putting up a fight. Like, no, what are you talking about? This is impossible. This is not part of the deal. And, just like any typical alcoholic, I'm pleading for my life to not be thrown in jail. So they gave me another chance. And, I had to stay away from alcohol for, I want to say, I don't know, I must have been sober for 6 months from alcohol, but I was using cocaine and smoking weed because it's not picking up any levels of weed or cocaine. So, you know what? If I can't get drunk, I might as well get high. So during that time, my usage on cocaine and marijuana increased, and finally got off of the the alcohol monitor. The case got dismissed, and off I go. Um, and you know, my drinking increased again because now I can drink. Now I don't have to be careful. I definitely was not getting in any car that I was driving at that point anymore. Anywhere we went, I took a cab. So, you know what? Reasons to be completely drunk and belligerent. I didn't have to watch what I drank because I wasn't driving. But now my wife was not happy because every time we'd go out, she'd have to babysit me. So she would have a worse time. And so at that point, it was just like my wife was my babysitter. We'd go out and she would have a horrible time. She would never have a good time. And, you know, the objectifying of women got worse. My boundaries, I had zero boundaries at this point. I didn't care who I was hurting or what I was doing to anyone. I had lost all sense of uh common sense at that point. I did not care about anything. I was just, portraying to be, I'm this great guy. How can you accuse me of things? How can you say that I'm this way and I'm not? And, you know, um, up until probably the last 3 years, right before I got sober, were complete demoralization and completely probably worse than torture for my wife. Um, I started to fight with her to end up going out. I would go out on my own. I was at this point I was probably an alcoholic with I would start drinking and then it was like no holds bar. It was like everything goes. Whatever I could get my hands on, and I made decent money where money wasn't an issue. It was not an issue. I could do whatever I want, however I want. Um, it was, if I was at a rave party, you know what goes on at those rave parties. You doing all types of drugs and drinking till about 4 in the morning, and then 4 in the morning comes the alcohol stops and the drugs increase. Um, and it was just, I woke up one time after a party. I woke up on the street. I woke up on the sidewalk. I had just gotten a brand new car. I had parked it somewhere, and I lost the key. So now it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking for my key for my brand new car, parked on the on the side street somewhere. I see my car, but I can't find my key. So now I'm going back to these places looking for my key, and my wife is calling me, blowing up my phone. I'm not answering, and I think I found a few pills in my pocket. And I was just like, I need this right now. So 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm popping pills, but nothing's going on because I'm just so completely drunk and high off of whatever it was that I was on. It wasn't working, and I end up coming home. My wife was just like not talking to me. It was just like, don't talk to me. Get your stuff, get out. I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. You can't throw me out. And, it was just a lot of hurt and pain. She was worried, but, I ended up going to Miami 2 years ago, and that was also a complete disaster. My wife had no trust, and I ended up going anyway. And it was the worst decision I could have made because my relationship at that point was completely uh, hanging from a thread, hanging from a thread. And if it wasn't for God, I would not be sitting here telling this story because there was plenty of opportunities where I should have, and I probably would have died if he wasn't in my corner. And as I'm talking about this now, it's popping up. It's just like I'm thinking, and I'm like, wow, God really had a purpose for me because I definitely should have been dead a long time ago. And I didn't see the severity of it, of my addiction going back as far as when I was 15, because I had no idea that I was an alcoholic or an addict at that point. And God definitely saved my life because that morning I woke up on the street and couldn't find my car key. I should have died with the amount of drugs that I did. I should have died. There was no way any normal human being could have put that much drugs in their system and survive and wake up and walk around and wake up and the first thing to do is take more drugs. It's just like, who in their right mind would continue to do that? I did. I was waking up and that's what I was doing. And now, I come now my wife is starting to get aware of my addiction to cocaine and she starts worrying. She's like, can you stop? Can you stop? You're gonna die. I'm worried about you. And it just wasn't my wife, it was my friends, because like I said, I started not having boundaries with anyone. You know, my friends started to be concerned and they started to worry. And they stopped wanting to be around me. They're like, we can't be around you if you're gonna be this way. But I didn't realize that. I didn't know. My head was telling me they were doing things behind my back. So now my paranoia starts to set in. What is it that they're doing without me? So now you get this fear of FOMO and paranoia that they're doing things without you because they're doing things to betray you, or you can't trust your friends and your wife because they're doing things to you, and that's just your alcoholic mind playing tricks on you. It's just paranoia. It's the drugs eating your brain away and just making you think things that aren't there. And it's just I think about it now and I completely betrayed my wife completely. And she stuck around through all the shit and all the bullshit. She stuck around. And now she's telling me she's worried. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. I was just like, no, I'm not. You don't know what you're talking about. I can stop when I want. Completely not true. If I could stop, I would have stopped, but I couldn't. Um, and at this point, my best friend didn't really want to talk to me. My wife wanted nothing to do with me. And I was at my breaking point where I started lying to my kids. Um, and right before that, like to elaborate more on that, I was drinking at work while I was on the job. I was drinking at my desk. No regard, like, oh, my boss doesn't care. I'm a supervisor at work. You can't say nothing to me. So I was doing things at work and drinking and using drugs in the bathroom and just no regard for anything than my self satisfaction. And it was just completely like that. I think about it now in a clear mind, only 6 months. It's just like, wow, what a complete asshole I was to everyone that cared about me. And to not realize that I could have lost my job if I got caught. Not only was I jeopardizing my own life and my own livelihood, but my kids and my wife. So I wasn't just gonna go down. I was taking everybody down with me if I was gonna get caught. And at that point, it was just I. There was one last argument I had with my wife, and she's like, "You're an evil person." Now, to hear your wife say that you're evil and that you care about nobody other than yourself is like probably one of the most hurtful things I've heard. But if she would have never said it, I probably would have never realized that I really was. And we got into an argument and I went on a bender. I went on a binge and I didn't come home. And, in between, there'd be times where I would come home. I would come home in the morning. I would go sleep in a hotel. I'd come home in the morning and take my kids to school. This time I didn't come home. This time I just completely disregarded everything. And when I finally did come home, my wife went to go pick up the kids at work at school. Sorry, she went to go pick up the kids at school, and my son goes, "Oh, he came home," like, and that was completely demoralizing for me because it was just like I would have never thought I would have heard those words from my son. But what can I expect if I was causing them nothing but pain and anguish? And at that point, it was my wife as much as my kids. And I ended up telling my wife and another close friend, and I said, I need help. I need help. And it's getting out of control. I had lost total control of my life. And I was completely desperate at that point. But I just didn't know that I was that willing with that gift of desperation. Um, it so happens that my best friend helped me get into the program in California. And he called one of his friends, which was also a mutual friend of mine, from when I was getting loaded with him in the barbershop. He was a barber. You go to the barbershop, you get drunk, you drink, that was guy time. And he called him, and I had no idea who I was talking to. He had also gotten sober in California, but he stayed there. And he told him, he's like, anytime anybody needs anything, you call me. So he called him and he spoke to me. I gave him my information. He's like, can you afford to buy a ticket to come out to California? I was like, yeah, of course. I bought a ticket. But right before that, I was trying to get into treatment centers here on the East Coast. And it was just like, it was completely and utterly just, I didn't want to do detox. I didn't want to do this. So I was being resistant still. And over there, it was just more like, okay, I'm going to set you up in a sober living house. They take your insurance. When can you get here? And he's like, don't think about it. He's like, if you can't afford to buy the ticket, I'll buy it for you. And I could buy my own ticket. They're like, don't wait. Get on the plane. He's like, the more you think about it and the more you wait, the less likely you're going to come. So my wife booked my ticket. And the last time I had a drink was on October 15th, 2020. And I got on a plane that Tuesday. That was a Thursday. On that Tuesday, I was on a plane on my way to California. I was on my way to Thousand Oaks. And they put me in a sober living home. And it was just like, okay, what do I do now? Like, they set me up in a sober living home, and it's just like you start doing all the things that you couldn't do before. You start getting responsibilities. Like at home, I wouldn't wash a dish, clean, or anything. You had to go to sober living, and you had chores. And for me, I wasn't from there, so all I was doing, I was there for recovery, and that's all I was there for. So they're like, you have no excuse to not be able to do any of these things. And at first, I was a bit resentful, and I was just like, screw you. I'm not doing any of this. Like, you're gonna tell me what to do? Like, my wife doesn't even tell me what to do. You're gonna tell me that I have to clean the bathroom? Like, you're out of your mind. And well, I ended up cleaning the bathroom and the kitchen and the backyard, and I started doing all the things that I never did at home. And when I got to California on Tuesday, my friend picked me up, which when I saw him was just like a complete relief because I was like, I have somebody here. And he picked me up. We spent the morning and the afternoon together. And he was just explaining to me, like, this is what you're gonna do. He's like, you're gonna go to these Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, you're gonna go to therapy, IOP, which is an inpatient program, and but you're gonna be in the sober living home. And he's like, there is no excuse for for you not to do what's asked of you. And at that point, it was just like, all right, I'm gonna follow direction because I know I couldn't do any of this shit on my own. And I get to I get there and I'll on a Tuesday, I check in and everything. And on Wednesday, I go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting on Zoom because this pandemic has everything on Zoom. So the first meeting that I ever attended, I see this man taking a cake for 31 years with his wife by his side. And I was just completely and utterly like just deflated. Like I had turned myself over without knowing that I did. And I see this man talking about how he got to 31 years. And I see him there with his wife. And I was like, I want that. That's what I want. I was like, I want what he has. And those are the words that we say, or those are the words that they want you to say as a newcomer for you to get it. They want you to get what we have. And it was just a spiritual awakening going there forward. So I see this man taking a cake for 31 years. He's he's like an AA celebrity, is what I call him, because he's the complete example of what this program is and what the message is. It's just love and to do God's will. And it's just the perfect, he's the greatest employee God has, because that's what he pushes. He pushes love and he pushes for spirituality, the spiritual growth. And after that meeting, who do I meet in a parking lot of a Rite Aid? I met this man who just took a cake for 31 years. And I met with him every day for 6 weeks while I was in Thousand Oaks, California. So for 6 weeks, I got to sit down with this man and talk to him every day. And he kind of paved the way for me to find God. I believed in God, I knew God was there, but he made me get that conscious contact that we want when we get into this program. And through him, God saved my life. I attended this step study that he was holding, and I did the work directly out of the big book. The way it was, the way it is in the big book is the same way that he laid it out for you. Like he really dumbed it down for it to be understandable, like, and not be intimidated. And by the time I was by the time I left, I was on step 9. So that I was in California for about 6 weeks exactly. Got up to step 9, and it was just like, within talking to all the men that I was living with, they're like, you can't leave too early. You got to get through the work. You got to get through the work. And it was just like, every time I spoke to the right person, it was just like, well, did you talk to God? Did you pray to God? Did you ask him what he wants you to do? Or how are you going to know? And I prayed about it. And when it was time for me to go, it was time for me to go. Um, so I left. I came home November 30th of 20. I mean, Yeah, November 30th. So I was there for, yeah, about 6 weeks. And I was on my step 9 by the time I came back. So when I came back, it was in time to just do all my amends that I needed to make because they were all back here. So it was just like God was working in my life, and he knew exactly what he was doing and how he wanted me to do this. And as long as I didn't take control of my will and I let him walk me through and hold my hand through this, it was okay. Because it was just like, your sponsor is supposed to direct you to God. Your sponsor is not supposed to be God. And this is the message that I got from them. They're like, as long as your conscious contact and your relationship with God is okay, then it doesn't matter. You'll know if it's time for you to go home. You don't need to ask and get an answer from somebody else. You'll know. And it just so happened, I was, by the time I left, my amends, it was time for me to do amends. There was nothing left for me to do in California. God got me to where he needed to get me, and I came home. And but in between that, I spent my first sober holiday in California with my friend. I spent Thanksgiving with a friend, and it was just amazing to be able to have a sober holiday because I couldn't remember not one. And the first amends that I made was to my wife as soon as I got off the plane. And they told me that, like, just from the heart, don't script it, don't make it robotic, make it from the heart and make it heartfelt. And it's gonna work out. I had 22 amends to make, and they all went well. I think one never returned my phone call, which is okay because you expect to not hear from people. And you got to just live with the living amends. And, it was okay. God knew where I was at, and God knew what he had in store for me. And I just didn't have to do anything. And now I'm here, 6 months sober, and it's been the best 6 months of my life. Um, and this man who had 31 years told me, he's like, it's gonna be like this. He's like, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down. He's like, but that's okay. He's like, as long as you stay sober, you can manage the up and down. As long as you stay connected to God and you stay connected to everyone, you're gonna get through. And I trusted. I trust God. Today I trust God to get me through all these trials and tribulations. And 2 weeks ago, I was definitely not a mess, but I was in a bad place. I was disconnected and blocked from God. And the minute you get blocked, it's just like gets really uncomfortable. And I couldn't understand why, but I realized why. It was because I started to try to take my own will back. I didn't trust God to let him do everything. It was just, there were certain situations that popped up, and I wanted to take control and not trust him to walk me through. And here I am. If anybody has any, I'm done with the step work. Well, you're never done with the step work, but I've been through the steps, and I haven't had any sponsees or anything. And it's just, when God's ready for me to have a sponsee, I know I'll have one. But this program has just saved my life. It's just, for anyone who has a doubt that this doesn't work, this works. This program will save your life. This the step work will change your life forever. And the they say, I forget what they say exactly, but something about the miracles don't stop until the miracle happens. The miracles never stop happening. They're endless. You get as much out of this program as you put in. It doesn't stop. I've gotten more than I ever bargained for. I'm still with my wife. I have my kids. I have my job. I've gotten, I don't worry about money because God got me. just when I feel like I'm gonna start being under pressure, it's just like here. He's like, when you don't worry about those things, God rewards you with everything you need. Um, this last week was a bit intense for me because my mom tested positive for COVID. Thankfully, she had very mild symptoms, but with that, she had exposed my kids. She was here in my house, and for this last week, we had to take 2 tests, and I was just like, whatever God has in store for me is what his plan is, and I can't control that. So whatever he decides that's going to happen out of this, it's going to happen. And we came back 2 negative tests, and everyone's fine. And my mom goes out of quarantine tomorrow. We were out of quarantine today, and life is great. I don't have a desire to drink or use today. I want to say the obsession is lifted for now. We have a daily reprieve, and I just, it's not in my vocabulary today to drink. I don't have a desire to. And, um, just life is great. Life is really great. And anybody who's new, if there's anybody here who's new, who still doubts or has any questions about this, just keep coming back. Just keep coming back until you get it. Because you eventually get it if you don't get it at first. It's just, this is a miracle. If you stick around and you stay connected and you build a foundation for you to stay, because that's what I did. When I first got here, that's what they told me. Connect to everyone and anyone who you possibly can. And that's going to be how you're going to stay sober. I didn't understand it, but now I do. I lean on everyone and I use everyone as a crutch through the hard time. It could be something so simple as a hello that's going to keep me sober. That's going to help the person that I just said hello to. You don't know what anybody could be going through at any moment. And God's will is for you to love everybody. And that's all I know, is that I have to please God. God is my employer, and whatever he wants me to do is what I'm supposed to do. So in any situation, I bring him to the table and I let him guide me through. And before I respond or react, I ask myself, what would God want me to do in this situation? What does God want? So I'm sorry if I rambled on too long, but I'm very passionate about this. I love this program. I love the fellowship. I get the love and the support of my wife and my kids and my friends. And it's just endless. God rewards you for everything that you possibly can think of, as long as you're doing his will. And I've been blessed with the fellowship of you guys here. I love you all so much. And, there's many others as well that, I don't cut myself short. And, as a newcomer, just don't cut yourself short. Don't doubt it, and everyone could be resistant to it, but just stick around. It gets better. It gets better. And this is just coming from a guy who's only 6 months sober. You got plenty of other people who have years of sobriety to tell you the same. So thank you, Daphne, for letting me participate in my sobriety. Hopefully this helps somebody in here. If not, something, so anything. Thank you.
Oh God, thank you so much, RJ. Wow, I would have tears and I'd have chills and I'd have tears and then I'd have chills. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it so much. And you were telling our story. So many of us have so many similarities, and that's what they say. Look for the similarities, not the differences. And so much that you were saying, I was like, my neck's hurting from like going, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I did that. I know. And all of from the being in the hotel, embarrassing your wife. That was my last shebang, was being in a hotel and embarrassing the shit out of my husband. And when I been at a business convention, and it brings you back, like, that's not all about me. But it's a selfish disease. And we, just like you said, we don't realize that we're hurting anybody. I'm like, I'm just hurting myself. I'm okay with that. And, drinking at work, I drink at work, and God, so much that you said, but, like you said, your wife and your children, that to me, disappointing my husband and my children, that was when I could see that, that's when it really hurt. But some of us are so far gone that, unfortunately we have to go away for a little while. And I just had to laugh at you having to clean at the sober house, because I've never cleaned so much in my life until I went to treatment. I'm like, all this money that we're paying y'all, like, why in the hell do I have to clean this place? And like, we had to do it twice a day, in the morning and at night. It was horrible. But yeah, so much that you said, it just rings so true. And I want to thank you for, I had to write this stuff down because I couldn't remember half of it as you were talking. You're so authentic. You're such a humble man. Your love for God, just, it gives me chills and brings me to tears, because so many people, and if you aren't a believer, I get it, you choose your own higher power. But when I hear a man speaking from the heart about God the way you do, and he's the reason you're here. I know that's why I'm here. And we're all miracles, whether whoever you choose to believe in. But your devotion and your passion and your loyalty to this program, just in the short time that you've been in it, is phenomenal. And I am so grateful that you were here and that Suzanne brought you to be part of our tribe. We love you